Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. Tracy here, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this really cute newborn baby mitten. Now I've made this one with a slightly smaller top, but you can get your hand, or the baby's hand rather, in there quite easy. And I've made it without a tie, but you can always put a tie, just a chain tie, in there if you want to. But I've done it this way because some people don't like to use the chain to have a tie, or don't like a tie at all. So I've done them like this with a little rib top, and the yarn I've used is the Stylecraft Colour Burst, which I'm swatching at the moment to show. I've recently bought this for my shop, hobbyrocks.co.uk, and I'm in the process of making some swatches, and I thought, well, rather than just swatches, I might as well make something with it. So that's what I've done. I've made this one mitten. I'm going to show you how to make the other. So I'm using a 4mm crochet hook for this one, and I've got a darning needle and a pair of scissors and a stitch marker if you need it, and I'll show you where you need that if you do need it. So most of these things I do sell in my shop, hobbyrocks.co.uk, and there'll be a link in the description box below to that, so you can see it if you want it. So this is the Colour Burst yarn, as I said, Stylecraft Colour Burst. It is absolutely beautiful, really soft. It's premium acrylic and polyamide, so you know it is really mega soft. Okay, that's not the right yarn band. I don't know where I put it, so I showed you that one. Okay, so I'm going to pop this one aside, and I'm going to start with a magic ring. Now, some of you might think, oh no, not a magic ring. You know, a lot of people hate doing them, but I've seen a lot of tutorials where they make them look very complicated. Mine is really not. I'm going to leave a nice long tail, and I'm going to make a ring. And then I'm just going to put the hook in and bring the yarn through that ring and make one chain. And then that magic ring or magic circle is done. That's all there is to it. It really doesn't need to be complicated. So inside this circle, working over the tail, I'm going to do 12 UK half trebles, which is a half double in the US. So I'm going to cinch this chain down just a little bit so it's not very baggy. And I'm going to put my 12 stitches in there. So it's nice and easy. And I do have basic stitch tutorials and an absolute beginners tutorial playlist, so if you need that, then I will put a link up here for you to go to it. But I'm just going to assume for the purposes of this tutorial that everybody knows how to do the stitch. It's just half trebles or half doubles US. So I'm going to pause the video and get to 12 because it's very annoying when people count and you have to listen to it and try and do it yourself. So I will catch up with you once I have 12 in this ring working over the tail. Okay, so I have 12 stitches, and all I'm going to do now is tug on this a little bit. I'm not going to close it fully, but just so that it's a little more closed. And this is my first stitch here. I'm going to slip stitch into both the loops of that. I'm going to ignore that first chain which I cinched right down. This angle doesn't want me to get in. I'm getting in one side. There we are. So yeah, just ignore that first shortened chain. So that's why I shortened it, so we wouldn't confuse it with a stitch. You can pull that tighter, but it will work its way looser until we're finished anyway. So now we've got our nice little ring. In every single stitch, I'm going to increase one. But before I do, I'm going to make a chain. I'm going to pull it really low. I don't want to see it. I don't want to confuse it with a stitch. Okay, so I'm going to do my first one. Now, if you need to know where your first stitch is, it is kind of nice and straightforward. You can see the two loops here. But if you're confused about it at all, that's what our stitch marker's for, just to pop it in there and you know exactly where you've got to put your next you know, your hook when you come to it. Okay, so I'm going to do 2 in each one all the way around, which will give us 24 stitches because we started with 12. Just 1 increase in every single stitch. Nice and straightforward. So that's a little boring to watch again. So I'm going to pause this video and I'll catch up with you once I've increased every single one, and you will have a total of 24 stitches. So if you're a bit confused when you get to this point here as to whether this is where you go or not, just give these V's a count. Remember, your first one is slightly down, but that will work itself out. But this is your first one, and if you've put your stitch marker in, you already know that. But I'll catch up with you then when I get to the end. Okay, so I've got all the way around, and I'm going to slip stitch into my first one again to close my ring. Okay, so I'm going to do my first chain, pull it really low again. The reason I do that is because sometimes the yarn goes back on itself and it can make that first stitch a little tighter, so I like to really end off my row, but I don't want to see that chain. So I'm going to do one in my very first stitch that I've just slip stitched into, and I'm going to increase into the next stitch. Okay, and that's my final increase for this whole garment, I guess you could say. So I'm just going to do one now in every single stitch all the way around, and it will start to cup and pucker. That is fine, that's what you want. You want it to make that shape. It's like making a very, very miniature hat, and you can see it already starting to bend up. Okay, so that again will be boring watching me go all the way around. So I'm going to pause the video, but as I haven't said it yet, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. YouTube don't notify all anymore, so even if you hit the all, the chances are you'll get some. Okay, so I'm going to pause it then, and I'll catch up with you when I get back to here, and you will have a total of 25 stitches. Okay, so here we are. As you can see, it is cupping up nicely, and I'm going to go into my very first stitch and join with my slip stitch. Okay, and as we start every row with a pulled down chain, I'm going to pop this into the right side, which is this side, and if you want you can pull on that, but it will loosen. It just does, but you know, it doesn't matter, and we will tighten that up at the end. So that's my final increase round. I know it was only one stitch in that round, but I'm going to do another 5 rounds without any increase at all. So just going in every single stitch with a half treble UK or a half double in the US, and do 5 rounds and ending them with a slip stitch exactly the same way. And obviously, as I've said before, it will be boring watching me do that. So I'm going to pause the video, and I will come back to you after I've done my 5th round without any increasing. Okay, so here we are. We've got to our 5th round. So I'm going to start this one exactly the same way. But what I'm going to do is I am going to decrease 1 stitch to bring my stitch count back to 24. So the next stitch I'm going to do, I'm just going to decrease 1 stitch. And now I'm going to complete that round. So at the end of this round, I'm back to 24 stitches. Nice and simple. Going to just pause it then while I get back to here, and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so now we're going to start on our top part, and for this I crochet quite tightly. So if you find that your tension, if you're not able to adjust your tension yourself and go tight, I know that my mum was a very loose crocheter, so I know that, you know, not everybody can do that. I would drop down to a 3.5 or a 375 hook just for this part, but I'm going to just do it tight. So what I'm going to do is my first cinched down chain, and I'm going to do a front post half treble around my first stitch, okay? And then around my second one, I'm going to do a back post. Now this one's slightly fatter, so, you know, it's just where we did the decrease, okay? And in the next one, a front post. They are small stitches, but you can see them. Okay, so front post, and in the next one, a back post. So we're going round the back of it to the other side, pulling the yarn through and going through. So we're completing a half treble or half double if you're in the US, but we're going front post, back post each time, which is why we needed to bring our stitch count back to 24. Also, it's nicer because it will pull it tighter at the top, because we're aiming to get this shape so that we still have a nice stretchy opening to put the baby's hand in. Okay, so we're going to do that all the way around. It's not a very long way, so I won't pause it this time. I'll stay with you because it is a little different. But yeah, front post, back post each time. I have to say this is absolutely lovely yarn to work with, and in the description box I will pop a link to all of the materials that I have got links for. This is absolutely beautiful yarn. This one is called Stars. It's my favourite of all of them. There are three that I really like, but the couple that I absolutely adore are this one and one that I can't remember the name of, but it's kind of pastel looking colours, and they are just so nice, so pretty. It's brand new yarn. So gotta get my hook in that one. See what I mean? Trying to be very tight, or as tight as I can be, to bring that in just a little bit more. Also, just have to say that there is a free crochet pattern with purchase in my shop, and there is a link to my shop in the description box as well. But if you can't find it, it's hobbyrocks.co.uk. There is a free crochet cardigan, and you don't have to purchase the colour burst yarn. If you wanted, you could purchase any DK or anything and just pop the free pattern in. But just bear with me a second because I'm just going to pause it. I need to cough and I'll be sorry about that. I've had a virus and it's on its way out now, but I still have a little tickle every now and then, and I thought it would be better to pause it rather than to blast in your ear. Right, so we're almost at the end of this round, which I can see coming up. There we are. So I think that is it actually, because I know we've got this back post, haven't we? What I'm talking about. There we are. They are small stitches, so that's why I said, you know, if you want to use the stitch marker, then you can. So I'm going to slip stitch into my first stitch. It's just that's what I mean about the stitch marker. It's very short kind of stitching anyway, but when you front post and back post with a half treble or a half double, it gets shorter. So that's why I said, you know, if you need to use it, then please do. So I'm going to slip stitch into my first one, and there we are. So we've made our first round, and as you can see, it's pulling nicely in. So I'm going to do my first chain cinch it down again, and I'm going to, where I have front posted, I'm going to front post, and I find it much easier the second time around. It's sticking up nice and proud for you. Okay, so if you want, you can just pop a stitch marker in this stitch, just so that you know. I mean, I can spot it, but you know, I understand it's harder to see. So just pop that in to the first stitch, and you can't get confused where you've got to come back to. Okay, so where you front posted, you front post, and where you back posted, you back post. And they are small, I do understand that, but you can see them just sticking up there. I always find it easier when I'm crocheting to hold it on the side, because I can really see them sticking up then, and the back of them. But it's harder to do that when you're doing a tutorial. There they are. So we're going to do this front posting where we front posted, and back posting where we back posted in every stitch until we get back to our first. So I'm going to pause it then, and I'll catch up with you when I get back there. Okay, so I've got all the way around and I can see there's my first stitch. So I'm just going to slip stitch into there. If I take my hook, my yarn with me, that would be a good idea, wouldn't it? So there we go, into our first stitch. Now what we're going to do now is one more round, just one more round, exactly the same. Front post where we've done a front post, and back post where we have done the back post. Just one more round. I didn't put the stitch marker in. I don't really need that, but you know, obviously you can do that if you need to. Okay, so I'm going to pause it then, and I'll catch up with you when I get back to the start. Okay, so I'm all the way around, and I'm just going to go into my very first stitch. I'm not going to do the fancy going in the back part. I'm just going to end it very simply with a cinch down chain. I'm going to cut my yarn. I'm going to leave a nice long tail to sew this in, and I'm going to then get rid of my ends. And I have to do my center one on this one, and because I've already done the other one. Okay, so I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to get my needle. Some people, they do some really amazing things and kind of threadle them very easily. Never seems to work with me, so I just use my fingernail to pop it in. Other people just fold it and it goes in. Doesn't really work with me. So what you want to do is to kind of get this to go down this length of where you've done your I think this is the back post stitch, or front post, where it's sticking out at the back there. Make sure you pull it down nicely so it buries that little kind of knot. And what I did with the other one was then I kind of went along, just kind of tracing it till I get to the next one. And then I went up this side, just in those ones you can see sticking up nicely to bury it in. Okay, so then I just pulled that. I'm just going to snip it off, find the scissors. I love these scissors, by the way, aren't they? Snazzy. Right, so that's that one. And now we want to, excuse me, that took me by surprise. Just pull this one tight and thread all that. That's why I like to leave a nice long tail, so that it's easy to get rid of with your magic circle. I never know what to call it. And we're going to go through a couple right at the end where the yarn comes out. And then I'm going to go back through that same loop, just pull it tight, and I've done a little knot. And now I'm going to put this yarn inside the ring. So I'm just going to go through. It's nice and tight with like all those stitches. Just going to go through piece at a time. And now I'm going to go through the next part, just burying it in that middle so that it will never be seen again. Okay, snip it off. You can go around as many times as you want, of course. Okay, now I'm going to pop it in the right side, and this one is nice and finished. There we are. That one's done. and it kind of will pull itself into shape for you. Now I've got to do the other one. So I've done the side part, just need to do this bit. And if you use variegated yarn that changes very quickly in colour, or a single colour, or you can just change colour every few rows and make it your own sort of design. It's lots you can do with this. So I'm going to do the same, make my little ring, go back through, pull it tight so it's a knot, and then just bury this inside all of those first round of stitches where it's nice and tight, so you won't be seeing it. One more little bit. And I'll snip that off. And we're done, so just pop them in the right way. There we go. So, got a little end sticking out of that one. Just need to pop it in. Do it through this. Must have come out at the wrong point. There we go. Gone in. And there we are. A little pair of mittens, identical more or less, apart from the variegation in the colour being a bit different. But it's nice and small. Got a nice little opening there. But if you prefer to put a little tie in, I would do a row of chain and I would put it in this very first bit. I would go through these like that and just thread my chain in there and do a little bow. So yeah, nice chain, about 50 chain, 51 should do it. That's what I normally do, and I would just go in and out of those. But I'm going to not put one on this because I think they look quite cute as they are. So that's it. Hope you like that. As I said before, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye for now.